Crossing the Jordan. The sun rose over the plains of Shittim, casting long shadows across the thousands of tents. For 40 years, Israel had wandered the desert, but now, only the rushing Jordan River stood between them and the land God had promised. Joshua, their new leader, stood on a high ridge, looking at the churning, muddy waters. Beside him sat young Malachi, who was gripped by both excitement and fear. "The river is at flood stage, Joshua," Malachi whispered. "How will we ever get across?" Joshua placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "The same God who led us through the desert will lead us through the deep," he replied. Joshua called the leaders together and gave them a command that sounded impossible. "Sanctify yourselves," he told the people, "for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you." He then turned to Ithamar, one of the priests. Joshua pointed toward the heavy, gold-covered Ark of the Covenant. "You and your brothers will lead the way," Joshua instructed. "When the soles of your feet touch the water, stand still." Ithamar nodded bravely, though the river's roar echoed like thunder through the camp. They weren't just following a map, they were following the presence of God. The next morning, the long procession began. Thousands of people watched as Ithamar and the other priests shouldered the ark. They walked with steady steps toward the overflowing banks. The Jordan was a wild beast that year, spilling over its edges and tearing at the trees. Malachi watched from the front of the line, his heart racing. Ithamar and his fellow priest, Zadok, reached the very edge where the muddy foam licked at the grass. They did not hesitate. They took one more step, and their sandals touched the cold, rushing current. The moment Ithamar's foot broke the surface, the impossible happened. Far upstream, the water stopped flowing, as if an invisible wall had been slammed down. The rushing roar turned into a trickle, and then into silence. The riverbed beneath the priest's feet quickly turned from mud to dry ground. Ithamar and Zadok walked to the very center of the river channel and stopped. They stood firm, holding the ark high, while the great river piled up in a massive heap miles away. The path was open. Joshua signaled for the nation to move. "Cross over!" he shouted. Malachi grabbed his younger sister Adira's hand, and they stepped down into the riverbed. It felt strange to walk where fish had swam just moments before. Adira reached down to pick up a smooth, wet pebble, looking up at the towering wall of water held back by God's hand in the distance. "It's like the stories Moses told us about the Red Sea," she whispered. Malachi nodded, feeling the warmth of the dry sand under his feet. God was proving that he was still with them. As the thousands of people streamed past, Joshua remained on the bank with Joram, one of the tribal elders. They watched the elderly, the children, and the livestock all move safely to the other side. Joshua felt a weight lift from his heart. For weeks he had wondered if the people would follow him as they had followed Moses. Now, as the miracle unfolded, he knew the Lord was magnifying him in the sight of all Israel. "Today," Joram said, "everyone knows that God's Spirit rests on you, Joshua." When the last of the people had reached the far bank, Joshua called Malachi over. "God has a special task for 12 men, one from each tribe," Joshua explained. He pointed back toward the center of the dry river, where the priests were still standing faithfully with the ark. "Go and tell them to pick up a large stone from the very spot where the priests are standing. We must take these stones with us to our first camp." Malachi listened carefully, realizing these weren't just ordinary rocks, they were pieces of a miracle. A strong man named Ezer stepped forward from his tribe. He waded into the dry channel and found a massive, heavy boulder near the priest's feet. With a great heave, he hoisted the stone onto his shoulder. Another man, Hanok, did the same. Their muscles strained under the weight, but they smiled as they carried the heavy burdens toward the western bank. These stones were cold and slick with river silt, a physical proof that they had walked through the heart of the Jordan without getting their robes wet. Finally, Joshua commanded the priests to come up out of the river. "Step onto the dry land," he called out. Ithamar and his companions carried the ark up the sloping bank. As soon as Ithamar's feet touched the firm ground of the promised land, a low rumble started upstream. The invisible wall vanished, and the Jordan came crashing back down its channel with a thunderous roar. Joshua reached out a hand to help Ithamar up the final incline. The river was back, deeper than before, but Israel was finally home. That night at Gilgal, Joshua piled the 12 stones into a tall monument. He called Malachi and the other children to the circle of stones. "In the years to come," Joshua said, "when your children ask, 'What do these stones mean?' you shall tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground.'" Malachi touched the rough surface of a stone, understanding the lesson. Sometimes God asks us to take a step of faith into the water before he stops the river. He wanted them to remember that when things seem impossible, his presence is all they need.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to help others discover our channel. God bless you.